You're listening to In Bad Company. Today we're diving into the question a lot of Christians wrestle with: is Halloween satanic or just harmless fun? My guest today is Pastor Larry Jennings, a former youth pastor, fishing master, and all-around great guy with a heart for helping people think biblically about our culture. We'll talk about the real origins of Halloween and All Hallows Eve, what the church has believed through history, and how Christians today should approach it. From trick-or-treating to spiritual concerns, let's get into it. Larry Jennings. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Great. How are you?
Doing good. So you were my youth pastor from 6th through 12th grade. And I was the light of your life,
Yes.
right?
You were.
Larry, I'd love to hear
Oh, no. So I saw a picture of you, actually. I had it down in my basement. I was cleaning some stuff up, and a picture of little tiny Heath being baptized. When I helped baptize you, that was pretty cool. I was baptized. Do you remember that? It was a little tiny Heath, no beard.
Yeah.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I remember that because I was just like, yeah, I want to get baptized. I want to follow Jesus. And yeah. And I remember it turning around. You're like, well said.
That's all you need.
So yeah, Larry, I'd love to hear a little bit about your kind of just your ministry journey and like school and kind of that side of your life.
Well, I didn't grow up in what do you call a Christian home. My family was my mom was more Catholic. My dad was more like nothing. And, he had like some Presbyterian or something in the background for a long time, but basically we were not church going or really believing family. And, long story short, as I got invited, my aunt got saved through a small group. It was through the Wesleyan church. It was a small group of people that were coming together, which are now known, if you don't go to the church, in the church world, it's called a small group, real fancy name for that, but small group of people that get together in homes and talk about things of God and prayer and seeking God. And so she'd been raised Catholic her whole life, my aunt, and she ended up giving her life to Christ. And if you're not a Christian, getting saved, you probably heard that term. The Lord completely changed her life. Started praying for our family, invited us to church, and ended up going to youth group in this little dusty little basement of this old church, and met some really awesome people. And through that, I met the Lord. Lord reached out to me. I was just seeking. I was like, this is real or it's not. And I remember even as a junior hire, I just had that kind of that. I'm like, well, I'm going to check this out. If not, if it's real, it's either going to be real. I want God to really show me. And I almost dared God, like, all right, if you're real, then I really want to know this. And obviously the rest is history, because he showed himself to me in ways that can't even explain, but that's a whole nother story. But surrender my life to the Lord, basically I was still in high school. I was called to ministry. Lord showed to me one of the very few times that I would actually say the Lord gave me a vision and actually showed me. It was like, Larry, I've set you apart for this. Freaked me out. I either wanted to be an engineer, a chef, or a marine biologist. So it's either a scientist or anyway. So I like math and science. I liked all that kind of stuff, and I also like nature. But yeah. And the Lord's like, nope, I've set you apart for this. And so I went to Indiana Wesleyan University, met my wife, became a youth pastor, and that was my calling, was working with young people. I mean, it wasn't like a step on somewhere to go somewhere else. A lot of people are like, oh, when you can be a real pastor, when you're going to actually be a pastor. And Keith, as a youth pastor yourself, you've probably heard those type of things. You ever think about being a real pastor? And no, my calling, and that really was, I really felt like the Lord had set me apart for that, and that calling. And so poured my whole heart into it. And yeah, many years. And through that met thousands of teenagers and done a lot of really cool things. I've been very grateful. And I've stepped away from that now as I've had crazy health issues, which is a whole nother podcast we could talk about. Heart stuff, stories I don't even believe, multiple cardiac arrests and crazy stuff. I have pacemaker, defibrillator. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, so that's how I ended up in ministry, though, is the Lord had called me to that, and ended up coming here to Traverse City and met Heath and his family and many, many more. And it's crazy. I was thinking about just doing this podcast with Heath, and I'm thinking, man, all the stuff you and I have done and experienced, and I mean, so many memories, and it's crazy. And now you have a beautiful family and kids, and you're almost a full-grown man now, Heath. So anyway. So it's cool. It's been a very rewarding, very grateful for the life the Lord's given me and the way He's watched over me with my health stuff, which again is insane. Yeah, so so that's how does that answer your question? How I got here, I guess?
Oh, yeah.
How we know each other?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, I think it's very rare. Like, I literally had you my entire like middle school through high school as a youth pastor.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went on a lot of trips together. You got me into backpacking because you used to take the senior trip backpacking. That was super fun. And then I was an intern with you before I was a youth pastor, so we had that experience together as well. Yeah, I remember you were there the first time I like spoke to a room of students, and I remember like, breaking into small groups, like, you know what? Let's actually have some discussion here. And then you came backstage like, hey, that was a good idea. And I was like, no, I'm freaking out. I had to get off the stage for a second, take a deep breath.
I'm like, right?
It's like, yeah. But yeah, that was super fun. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I honestly would love to do a podcast with you about just your health journey, because that is just a crazy story in itself. I mean, I have never personally seen you die. I feel a little out of the club because I know
really
people.
I thought you have.
Wow. No, I never have. So it's yeah.
Josh Mosier has the Josh Mosier has the record. He has the record. Josh Mosier has the record for I think most times. Yeah.
I think my favorite story with him, I think it was him, he was there, but it was like during like a music segment, and you were like jumping up and down with everybody, and then you just sat down in a chair, died. Got shocked because it's implanted, and then you just, whoa, that was crazy, like insane. Like, poor Josh, you scarred the poor man.
Joe Irving was there too, and I guess the way it was, I was slumped over in the chair, gone in cardiac arrest. It doesn't even make sense. You're listening to go, huh?
Yeah,
because it's a whole thing. But I kicked, so when it's 840 volts. I get shocked. Joe's like, Larry kicked me in the back of the leg because he was standing next to me. He turns around. He's like, oh, no. And the rest of that story is I got up and actually did a message 20 minutes later. I was up on stage. I was insane. That was nuts. So
that is crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the question, Larry. As a pastor, as a Christ follower, as a reverend, if you will, is Halloween satanic?
Short answer, yes.
There we go.
And that's it. We can close it down.
Yep.
So,
all right. Well,
actually, Halloween is the word. I appreciate it. Actually, the word Halloween, it's very interesting because it's actually connected to the Catholic Church. In my research, how this all works together. The word Halloween comes from All Hallows Eve and the Catholic Church and the traditions of the Catholic Church. So the word Halloween itself is that. But the origins of Halloween of what we know of the Sam Wynn or Sam Hain, as people would say, 100%, 100% satanic. There's no, there just is what it is. It's historical. So it's a pagan holiday.
Yeah. So this was one of those ones too, where the church kind of, so it was all around this was All Hallows Eve, right? So it was before All Saints Day, and then it became this mixed with Sam Wayne or whatever you call it, Sam Wen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sa
So
Samhain, Samhain. That's yeah. That's yeah.
well, so
So
how did that originally happen? Like how did those two mix? Is it kind of like a Christmas situation where they're like, we'll take your holiday and we'll put it into ours, you know?
yeah, actually Christmas, believe it or not, the more I've researched that, um, Christmas was kind of co-opted by the pagans.
Hmm.
The other way around. It kind of was. It was originally a Christian holiday that got co-opted by they got mixed the other way. So I think Halloween, we got a complete opposite. Yeah, where the church co-opted it. They said, hey, there's this pagan festival. Let's make it, let's try to redeem it or do something else instead of. And that's where you get the confusion. So,
Hmm.
so again, I'm far from an expert. I'm not a historian per se, but the backgrounds of the holiday itself. I mean, this was a Celtic pagan. It was basically halfway between the especially in an agrarian society like that, where um, you've got you're kind of marking your calendar by the solstice, right? So you have the fall solstice, and then you have the winter solstice, and um, October 31st happens to be like halfway in between of those two. So it's halfway. That was my understanding, is the October 31st became the halfway point, and they believe the veil between the spirit and and the the spiritual and the physical, that veil got thinner, so there was some interaction, and so it was purely a pagan Celtic um uh 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 holiday, you would say. Holiday is kind of a weird word because holiday means holy day, but it would be, it was a festival, and they would celebrate that this time of year, and it was going in after the harvest, but it was more of a spiritual, interacting with these spiritual beings, and that's where you get into all of the traditions. One thing I did find out, I mean, they would do sacrifices, and they would create these great big fires, and they would create what would be known as a bonfire, which, can you wonder where we get our word bonfire from? It was literally a fire where they would do these sacrifices. Sometimes, I mean, they would obviously do cattle and livestock, but also sometimes human sacrifice. And yeah, so lovely, lovely traditions.
Yeah.
So it was purely based on, basically, I mean, you would pagan, what we call pagan practices at the time. And so that was so popular, and it was so ingrained into the culture of the time, that the Catholic Church comes in, and they want to do this All Saints Day, which is November 1st. And so you've got these, it's a hollow holy day, like hallowed be thy name, like a hallowed type of, not hollow like empty, but hallowed time. And so the Catholic Church then became, it was All Hallows Eve. That's where that same date, you see, like they kind of start meshing, like, again, I mean, really it was a pagan holiday that got co-opted by the church, basically, is really, if you want to put it that way, is best my understanding. And so they they would basically became that's where you get All Hallows Eve, and that's where you get Halloween is from. It's weird, it's this mashup from the Catholic Church and again, mixing these two together. And so that's where, and then I think in like the 20s, it got really popular here in the US. And, and from what we see today, how did we get here where people are putting giant skeletons in their yard and spending crazy amounts? I mean, I go to Costco, and it's like aisles and aisles of like Halloween stuff, and it becomes a whole, it's it's ingrained in the thing. I think honestly, I think what we have in America here is you've got the roots of it being basically satanic and pagan, and then you have the Catholic coming in here, and you've got this mishmash. Well, then I think it was around the 20s or so. I mean, and and they carve, and that's where the I mean, that's where the carving of the jack-o'-lanterns was these pagan traditions. They would originally, I think it was carving turnips, and then I think in Germany or whatever, they got more sophisticated and say, hey, pumpkins are pretty cool. And so, but how did we get now to where kids are walking around getting candy and doing all these things? It was basically, American commercialism, right? Like, I mean, it was capitalism at its finest. So that's kind of where we end, and where it's really ingrained itself in the culture. So you got this mishmash, you know what I mean? But the roots of it are purely pagan. You got and then you got the All Hallows Eve, you got the All Saints Day and all that, and it gets all mished up, and then we're here in America where it's a big melting pot of things, and then you get money involved, and just follow the money. It's like, hey, people want to buy. I can't believe what people spend on Halloween stuff now. It's crazy. It's just crazy to me. So
Yeah.
I mean, you see people putting full displays on their home and doing all the things, and so that's I think that at the end of the day, that's all about money. It's really just about American consumerism at the end of the day. But yeah, but
That's interesting.
definitely.
Yeah, it feels like to me it's almost like the church with like harvest parties and trunk or treat is almost an attempt to continue that, giving people alternatives to that, or like how can we do that? It's like that almost feels like a new thing, but it's like actually that's kind of like what the whole thing has been about, and like it's always trying to be like, hey, can we do over this, Um so yeah, I mean, we kind of went through a lot of the religious traditions there. Um Talking about the pagan festival. Yeah, I've seen a lot of this year specifically. It feels like there was like a huge like during the 80s and 90s, like that the satanic panic, where stuff started to be looked at again. And I think, my family, we never celebrated Halloween. It was just part of like, nope, as a Christian, you don't do that. And I think as a youth pastor, how did you kind of handle that with just like events you're doing? How did specifically just events like in that month, like how did you feel about that, or what were your experiences with trying to do stuff?
Well, kind of funny enough, my first Wednesday night at New Hope at the church Heath was at, my first Wednesday night ever was actually Halloween. And yeah, kind of weird. It's kind of my anniversary of being here. I just arrived here and didn't know hardly anybody, and that was my first. It was kind of funny, and they didn't have anything special that night planned. We have this call as Christians to be in the world but not of it, and to also interact with the world, and use the symbols of the day and all that. I think as a Christian, myself, I don't feel the need to celebrate Halloween. You know what I mean? But as a youth pastor who's on a mission, who's wanting to reach the culture around me, especially the teenagers around the area, Halloween is a time where people are more looking for, and I really don't think, there's true, like, people looking to do animal sacrifice and human sacrifice and actual witchcraft on Halloween. I don't believe that. I just don't believe that's in our culture. Your normal teenager, especially in our area, I don't think that's really, that's not the issue. And so but they are looking for, hey, there's something going on. People are gathering, and people want to belong, right? And people are, in your average teenager is like, man, what's going on? Especially, is there a gathering of people that I can be part of, and to do that? And so we would actually throw a harvest party, which is pretty funny because I think Babylon Bee did a joke years ago. Babylon Bee had an article, if you saw that, it said, we realize that your harvest party is just a Halloween party, you know,
Yeah.
but but it was a way of, and there actually is a history of harvest parties as well. I mean, that's kind of what Thanksgiving kind of is as well. You know what I mean? A time of the harvest time. Now, again, I don't know any farmers that were in our youth ministry. I didn't know, you know what I mean? My wife Deanne grew up on a farm, so I'm kind of familiar with a little bit of that calendar of time, you know. But I still wear my John Deere hat sitting right over there. But anyway, yeah, I have driven tractor a few times. I've plowed some fields before, and baled some hay. Um, but just that fall time. And so what we did was in the youth ministries, you know, we would have a harvest party. In fact, I was thinking about this time of year. It's really weird. It's like we would go and we would spend, I think we spent an amazing amount of time for our harvest parties. And we just call them a harvest party. We were unapologetic. We didn't, you know, but people would dress up. So there was very Halloween-esque, but we didn't call it a Halloween party. It was more a time of year where, man, people are looking to gather together, you know, and, you know, it's Halloween time. I mean, it's an excuse to get together. It's really, I think at the heart of it, you know, again, there's not too many people looking for an actual satanic ritual to be part of. I think they just want to get together and be a party. And we capitalized on that as the church. We were like, let's use this time of year and have some fun. There's nothing evil. I mean, I like candy corn. You know, actually, I hate candy corn, but I like candy apples. My wife loves candy corn. It's disgusting. Sorry, I misspoke.
That's a
But
hot take
Deanna
right there.
loves it. It's so disgusting. It is terrible, terrible. Anyway, so I believe candy corn is actually satanic, so it is from the pit of hell. So, and she likes those little marshmallow pumpkins too, those terrible, like, banana flavored. She likes the peanuts too from those foam peanuts. Oh, those are
Oh yeah.
oh, they're terrible. They're banana. Did you realize they're banana flavored? Who came up
The
with a
circus
banana
peanuts?
flavored peanut? Yeah, they're terrible. Oh, they're terrible. So anyway, those are straight from the pit of hell. Those are
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
But I like caramel apples and donuts and cider. You know what I mean, and all the fall things. We've just associated those with Halloween. You know what I mean, just because of time of year type of thing. But we would have, you know, hay rides, and we used to do. I mean, and Heath, you know, I mean, some of our harvest parties were great. They were some of our biggest nights of the year, to be honest with you. In the fall, we'd have a couple hundred high schoolers just at and we'd take over. Were you part of some of the ones where we took, like, on the peninsula, where we did, like, the barn party out there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then we were over at Amon Orchards, I remember one year, which was right next door, when they were part of that, and we had hay rides and square dancing, and I mean, the square dancing was a lot of fun. Yeah, so it was we had like a it was a good old hoedown type of thing, you know what I mean? It was a fun time. So that's what we did. That's how we interacted with this time of year. We're aware of our culture, right? We're just trying to be, it's in the world, not of it. And so, although I did have one parent years ago, I had a strongly written 4-page letter about cider chugging. We did do a cider chugging contest, and I just thought it was hilarious. She just thought it was too of the world. I thought it was funny. So
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
we had
I
a kid throw
remember
up in
that.
one of those, and
Yeah.
he threw up an entire hot dog. He threw up like it was whole. It was almost whole. It was like, did you swallow this thing? He didn't chew it. It was like he had like. It was like 3/4. All right, I'm exaggerating, maybe, but it was 3/4 unchewed hot dog. When he puked, it was like, that was more fascinating than the fact that he puked. It was like, what's up? You don't chew your food, man. Anyway, so I digress. But yeah, so anyway, a
That's
lot of good times.
amazing.
But yeah, yeah. So that's so that's kind of how we did it. We just interacted with with the time of year. It's fall, and where we live, fall's an amazing time of year. We get seasons. If you have listeners that are listening that don't get seasons, I mean, where we live is, I mean, it's raining right now and it's cold. we've had years where trick-or-treating, I think it was last year, trick-or-treating was canceled because of a snowstorm. So
Yeah.
we get changes of seasons. And so where we live, we have an amazing color right now. The colors are probably peak right now around us. I mean, we have orchards, we have that. So we're in the culture here of it. If I lived in a desert, I don't know. I mean, if I lived, I'd be like, huh? I think it'd be different. But the whole harvest, we live around farmland and all that as well. So it was a very easy jump, you know. And I think, and honestly, teenagers wanted to get together, and we made a ton of connections. We made tons of, I mean, that was that set momentum in our ministry was our harvest parties. It would be kind of one of our biggest events of the year.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool to hear that too, because I think the poor reaction is the just turn off your lights and don't, interact, you know?
Yeah.
And I get if you don't feel convicted to not celebrate, but it's like, but what's the alternative? What are you doing instead? And hey, if that's what God calls you to do, more power to you. But it's also like, but then you're just known as the neighborhood that's like, oh yeah, they don't celebrate they don't give my child candy. It's like, how does that help your interaction? Off of the strongly worded letter, this year, another church local, posted about their trunk or treat, in their parking lot, which is like,
Mm-hmm.
just the trunks are, set up like little houses, and then people can get candy. It's very, very chill, mostly for littler kids. So you don't have to walk even, larger areas, and then they got a comment that on their church, page of like, this is satanic. I can't believe a church would do this. What's your kind of reaction to those people who are just like, you're celebrating Halloween. Halloween is satanic. So you are doing us like celebrating Satan. Like, what's your response to that?
I would say, it's very, I think again, in the culture, we're interacting with the culture, I think, I don't think people are looking to offer their children up to Satan, you know, you know what I mean? Like, I really don't think the intention is that at all. So, you know what I mean? By dressing them up and doing, I mean, it's like if I dress up my wiener dog Boomer and which I don't know where he went. He's awful quiet right now, but he's got a hot dog costume. It's like, do I dress my dog up and as a hot dog? Am I going to hell?
Yeah.
It's like I don't think so. I don't think that's my intention or my heart. And your kids like to dress up. That's a fun thing. And I think church is doing that. It got real popular. I mean, it just kind of started. We were part of the first ones up here in this area, actually, a long time ago. Now it's like every church is doing it. I think Saddleback out in California were one of the very first ones that kind of came up with that idea, just interacting with the community. Again, it's all about, you've got to think about what are the purposes of these things. So like, what's your goal at the end of the day, and what's your heart? And, to be able to dress up kids as Power Rangers, or my kids don't know Power Rangers, but like, you know what I mean? Then when I dress up as, Baby Yoda or whatever and walk around and get candy from a bunch of cars and a chance to interact with the community, I don't think that's evil. I really don't. I don't see any evil in that. I don't see, I see that as a way to show the love of Christ in a practical way. And so, one thing we did at our harvest parties, we would say, we would have dress up, and we did pumpkin carving contests even, which technically was kind of a satanic thing. I mean, it was not satanic. It was like just, the spirit. Again, it's the heart behind the thing, It's like man looks on the outside, God looks at the heart, right? And so it's the heart behind the thing. We did pumpkin carving contests, at our harvest parties, and it was all crazy artwork and whatever, and kids did some creative stuff, and it was like, they won a prize at the end of the day. It was not it had there's no, again, our traditions in America are severely detached from the original roots of it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's really about, fun and candy versus, like I said, actual spiritual things. I think that can be a gateway too, which we can get into, but, so the people that are saying, oh, my church is doing this is evil. I don't think they're worshiping Satan. I really don't. I think they're interacting with the culture around them, and which is kind of how we got here anyway, right? What we talked about. Circle back to that. It's like
Yeah.
that's where Halloween became Halloween. It was All Hallows Eve, and then they kind of co-opted this, and I think what, to walk around some cars. One of the things we put in like when we do our harvest parties was nothing. I don't know if you could do this anymore, but it was because people don't use this words anymore. But we put nothing skanky, scary, or scandalous. Something that was on our flyer. So it was like, don't be skanky, don't be scary, and don't be scandalous. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, dress up as like whatever. You know what I mean? You want to, it's So it was kind of, that was kind of our way of covering. It was a funny way of covering it though, but it was like, we're not making it. It's not a. We're dressing up as you want to dress up as He-Man or whatever. I mean, I'm really old now.
I was gonna say all your references are a little.
But you know what I mean. I know I'm dated.
The best part about that.
I'm old soul. No, anyway, yeah, no. You know what, He-Man? Yeah, it's like no. But if you want to dress up again as man, who's a popular kid? Heath? Heath? What are your kids gonna dress up as?
Dude, okay. Well, I can answer that, but like I'm too old for these references now because He-Man, they're making a movie, so that's coming back around. But you have Power Rangers because you have all these millennial dads who grew up with Power Rangers.
Yep.
Their 3-year-olds are dressed up as the Red Ranger because, they like the Red Ranger. And as kids like no idea what I am. My kids are Paw Patrol for our harvest.
Paw Patrol. Oh, that's precious.
Yeah.
Kids, by the way, your kids are precious. Yeah. Emma's genes definitely came through on the. No. You're a very good looking man. I look at you sometimes and I was like, man, you're just a good looking man. I like you're pulling it off. So
right back.
You guys are a beautiful family. You really do.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny how this comes back again with having kids, because you're like, I didn't dress up for Halloween. How do I interact with that with my kids? And yeah, you kind of touched on it before, but talking about your being a part of that kind of ritual or, the heart behind it. There's a huge, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this viral clip of this Satanist guy. He's got like tattoos all over his face.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like a big like bar, and it's like his thing is he makes the statement like, if you celebrate Halloween, if you hand out candy, you are participating in a neighborhood ritual for Satan. And I don't believe that, and I'm just like, as a Christian, it's like, I don't think you can accidentally worship Satan. I don't know, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I would agree with that. I mean, there are people though who are involved. I think I've seen those clips as well, where people, again, they take this stuff very seriously because it very much affected their life. And Satan does come as an angel of light, you know what I mean? So we do have to be wise and gatekeep. I think, if you're dressing your children up as like, axe murderers, and we're celebrating murder and mayhem and demonic and, you know what I mean? And, the witches and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I would be careful. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense, especially as a Christian, to say, what does, what relationship does light have with darkness? But if you're handing out candy to some neighborhood kids who are dressed up as a Power Ranger or Paw Patrol, am I going to hell because of it? It's like, I don't know. I mean, it's just kind of like I said, we're so removed so much. I believe at the heart, again, it's all about the heart, right? And it's so there's 100%. Halloween is has pagan roots, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Hain or Sam Wayne, but we've gotten so far away from it. It's a cultural thing, and you can celebrate a lot of things or be part of things that you don't have, your heart is not into or connected, or be removed. And just like people can go to church and not be believers. The bigger issue is there's a lot of people who call themselves Christians who are removed from Christ. Their hearts are far from him, you know. They're doing the outside stuff. So it goes both ways. You know, it's but yeah, I don't think the actions of dressing up as their kids in costumes and putting some face paint on and, you know, doing all the fall things, eating, you know, and again, the donuts and the cider and I'm just about the food, right? I'm just,
Oh yeah.
you know, I'm not really a candy guy. I'm more like the donut and cider crowd, but like,
Oh yeah.
you know, but I'm just saying, like, enjoying those things, those good things are not, you know, I don't think there's a problem. So,
Yeah.
well, let me ask you, how did you and Emma, how did her family handle Halloween growing up?
Well, yeah, so her family, they worship the devil. No, just kidding. um, they no,
No.
they celebrate. It's interesting because my wife is 7 years younger than me. Um, and it did feel like a bit of my parents and her parents are of almost a different generation, quite a few
Yeah.
years between there.
Yeah.
And I think my parents, I mean, they grew up Pilgrim holiness, like, more strict than a lot of the areas. So it was like my sister, I think, celebrated one Halloween her first year, and then they were like, nope, never again, which that's just what the belief was. My wife's family kind of had the opposite. It's like, hey, it's just getting candy dressed as a pumpkin, you know? So they celebrated it. So that was kind of our decision together. It's like, what do we do as our family now, you know? And I think that was my thing is as a kid, I felt so like, I respect my parents' decision and their conviction, but I also was like, I felt left out because my friends were dressed as Power Rangers getting candy, and I was sitting at home. And so it was a lot easier, honestly, with the youth group because I never even dressed up. I don't know if you remember that, but I never dressed up in costume.
Yeah.
But I loved hanging out with people. Yeah, I was a part of the cider chugging contest.
That's what people, yeah, exactly.
Um, but yeah, just that kind of, yeah, I think that was kind of our take as well, is like there is a difference. I think it's also, you go into something like that eyes wide open. You're not saying Halloween's fine, don't even worry about it. And at the same time, we're like, well, what's right for our family, you know?
Did you, was that a conversation year one? I mean, when you first had kids, I mean, it was like, what are we, obviously a baby, but you know what I mean? When you first, it's like, did that conversation really come up? Like, how are we going to do this? I mean, how are we going to,
Yeah, I think it was not more of one of our serious conversations because for her it was just assumed. And then I kind of had to be like, actually, my family doesn't do this. And so I have to kind of like,
yeah.
and then she was kind of, oh, this is interesting, Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then, yeah, we've used those as, like birth announcements. Like when we were pregnant for our second, our daughter was a bucket of spaghetti and my wife was Prego sauce. So it was like to reveal that we were
Yeah.
pregnant, and that was so funny. My favorite is when you have a kid that's like under 2 and they have no idea they're dressed up and they're just being a kid. Like they're acting like super chill because like they don't realize they're dressed up like a bucket of spaghetti. And it's so funny. They're just like, I'm just chilling, hanging out.
Just a,
Um,
it's just a Tuesday, right? It's
right.
just
Yeah.
Tuesday.
And they don't even get candy
Yeah.
because you're under 2. You can't have sugar,
No.
so um but why do you think the American church is so divided on this? It feels like every year it's a do or don't or it's evil. Like, why do you think that is? That we're so divided on it?
I think that just is a picture of where Christianity is in
Mm.
America specifically. I mean, um, you have very worldly churches who are, you know what I mean, basically have lost all their power, you know what I mean? And it just kind of, they just do their own thing. And it's, a form of godliness, but denying its power, basically, you know what I mean? We're going to be as close to the world as we can possibly be. And then you've got this tension of being in the world, but not of it, right?
Mm.
It's this tension. And so you've got some churches that are so worldly, you don't really even know. They don't even talk about sin or hell or, or evil or Satan or any of that, the enemy. And then you've got other churches that are so, they want to be isolated from the, and again, I understand being holy. Holy means to be separate and to be, we are called to a life of holiness, being separate, but it's this, do we just then become, do we pursue the monastic life and wall off and you know what I mean? Do we isolate or do we insulate, and with, I guess my philosophy in youth ministry was, we have kids from all different backgrounds, right? We would have, we got a couple hundred teenagers from different backgrounds that you're dealing with. We didn't want to insulate all the time, like, and I've watched a lot of parenting over the years. I mean, I've watched parents insulate their kids, and I've also watched them, and isolate. And then you've also had them where they just, there's no boundaries at all. And I think, I always tried to, we would say is we want to inoculate. We want to be around the world, being in the world, but not of it. You know what I'm saying? Like where we're able to build resistance and to be able to have discernment and to be able to, that type of thing. And so the reason, come back to your question, why is there a divide, I think is because you have churches that are on different missions. Some really believe that we need to isolate and just wait till Jesus comes, and like just build up our walls and not interact. And then we have some that are so worldly that, you know what I mean? It's almost a joke. And so there is no reverence for, for the Lord, and there's no reverence for the, evil, and you know what I mean? It's all just a joke. And so, again, having a form of godliness, but denying its power. And so, I think that's why. I think just, you get a whole, in America, just even in our town, I could think of extremely worldly, pagan, not pagan, but like extremely, churches that are, you know what I mean, way out, very liberal, and twisting scripture. And then you have others that are, like I said, so straight-laced that it was like, we don't. And, there is a bit of that according to your, according to, your conscience, according to, you know what I mean? And your own faith. But yeah, I think there's a wide, variety of, I don't think someone's going to hell because they're dressing their children up as Power Rangers going to get candy from, at a drunken tree. I really I can't see that, because of the heart behind it. Does that make sense? You know? And it just happens to be around the time that Halloween happens. You know what I mean? What if we did that in July or June? Would that be a difference? Would it make a difference? I don't think so. I think you look at it what it is, and it's interacting with the culture. And I think offering an alternative, like you said, now you have kids, right? It's a great alternative, right? Like a trunk and treat type of situation is a safe environment. It's totally devoid of the occult or demonic, right? I mean, it's not, you know what I mean? And it's with people that you feel safe with, and the kids can have a good experience as a family. You make some memories, you take some pictures, and, that's it, right?
Yeah. So do you hand out candy yourself, like at your house? You kind of.
I don't. I'm kind of a curmudgeon. So no,
Yeah.
we actually, the street we're on, no, actually just because the street we're on, we have kind of a main drag by our house, and so it's not really a high traffic area, and so, um, I have friends who live downtown, and they have a house downtown. And actually, it's been kind of fun. We go down there. They dress up. I don't really dress up, but I've had fun just hanging out with them. They live from out of town. They have a house up, downtown Traverse City, but this is their second home up here. And we'll just hang out. And it's been fun just to hand out candy at the porch, and, we talk and hang out. I mean, it's not like I said, it's, and that's downtown. If you really want to, kids know, if you want to get the goods on Halloween, there's certain neighborhoods. My neighborhood really isn't a high, if I was looking for candy, you want to get the big haul, this is not the neighborhood to be in.
Right.
So it's a little more spread out, and yeah. And actually about 30%, don't get me started on this rant, that's a whole nother podcast, but about 30% of our neighborhood now is Airbnb. So, you know what I mean? People don't Airbnb to do Halloween,
Right. Or they're not giving out
it's
candy
not a
for
neighborhood.
their rental.
No, exactly. Leave me alone. I'm a party. So, yeah. So,
Yeah, I'm working on a house down on Washington Street, and the lady was like,
Mm-hmm.
I buy 10 bags from Costco of candy, and like last
Oh
year we
yeah.
ran out. It's like it's crazy.
It's
Um,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, but it's fun, and I think that's the thing too. Is like it doesn't. I think there's personal conviction, which I'm always wary of because I think there is truth, but then if you're convicted to not do something, then don't do it. But it feels to me that like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't feel right to say, don't dress up your kids, don't let them get candy, don't go to trunk or treat at your church, don't, all these things,
Yeah.
maybe don't chug cider. Maybe that's
Mm-hmm.
not good. Um, when you said chugging cider, my big no as a youth pastor is I did play dew pong with my youth group
Oh no.
instead of
Oh no.
beer pong. In my defense, in my defense, we didn't have
Yeah.
paddles, so I was like, like we got for
Oh,
alls,
gotta
we have
help us up.
puns. All right, yeah, we'll just throw them. We'll throw them,
Hey.
and then uh, and then I'm like at halfway, like even as I'm describing the game, I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, I'm gonna get something for this, but
Oh, this is not. I'm teaching stuff.
yeah, I'm teaching stuff.
That's worse than cider chugging. That's
Yeah,
worse than cider.
it is.
chugging.
It is. We actually didn't chug Mountain Dew. I always just add that for for flavor, but it was totally just standing
Oh,
outside
okay.
and
Well,
the
there you
bean,
go.
drop them in. Yeah, there was no slamming of Mountain Dew, but I always call it dew pong just to like
Yeah.
describe what we were doing. We should have.
Dew
So,
pong. That's funny.
I'll play dew pong any day.
Interesting fact. Interesting fact is, um, back in the day, bowling was considered evil by the church.
Yeah.
Bowling was just like churches divided over bowling, over the issue of bowling,
Well, and I think there's
because there was drinking, because drinking is associated with bowling, right?
right.
And it was like, okay,
Well,
so
my
yeah,
mom,
so
I was bring up, my mom wasn't allowed to watch movies in the movie theater, and I really think
yeah,
the
going to the
roots
movie, yeah,
were,
going to the movie theater,
yeah.
yes, yeah,
I think the roots of that too is a lot of movie theaters, like, 70s, 80s, also showed pornography as well. Like this wasn't a family AMC,
oh yeah,
and I think there's roots there as well. I mean, some people would just be
mm-hmm.
like, no, if it's not a Christian movie, you shouldn't watch it. But I think there was a lot of like, there's similar thing. Yeah. Like bowling. It's like, it's not necessarily what it is, but it's the atmosphere. It's like, well, everyone's getting drunk and smoking and, which cigarettes are the highest
Yeah,
offense, of course. But, um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So it's that mixing of stuff as well. But it's like, can you go bowling and not
mm-hmm.
smoke and drink? It's like, yeah, you can, and yeah, once again, isn't that where you want to be is with other people? And like, yeah. I mean, let's talk about the holy symbolism of bowling. I mean, the rolling stone, the stone rolling away,
dude.
the
All the don't get me started. Yeah, all the
it's a one-to-one story of the gospel, really.
pretty much is.
Uh, well, what do you, I mean, I feel like we've kind of gone over a lot of the main topics, but um, where do you think, I mean, I guess I would love to hear you kind of sum up what you think families should do, Christian families at this point. I feel like, celebrate, hand out candy, alternative, like what's your stance?
Man, I say be in the culture. I mean, and this is going to sound like a non-answer maybe, but it really is each according to his own conscience a little bit. You know what I mean? Pray about it. I mean, pray about it as a family. And um, I think the whole elevating death and evil and all of that, I think that should be a no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's a no-brainer as a Christian. If you're a believer and you say, I follow Jesus, I want to see, seek the Lord and do these things, um, I think it's pretty simple that, the elevation of death and skulls and, ghouls and witchcraft and all the spooky and the scary, and we're elevating all this and that demonic type things, symbolism, I think that's a no-brainer. Like, yeah. But if it's like me going on to my friend's house and they're not believers, by the way, my friends. I mean, I would, they don't profess Jesus, to be followers of Jesus, and we've had very good conversations, and we have a great friendship and many, many years. But if I want to go over there and hang out with them and hand out candy to the neighborhood kids, I don't see, I see that being missional. You know what I mean? I see that being, again, it's that in the world but not of it type of thing. And for me, can I hand out candy and talk to children and do that and and feel like my soul is not being drugged down, or you know what I mean? It really is at the end of the day, and it's everything you've got to ask. As Paul says, everything is permissible, not everything's beneficial. It's am I are the things I'm doing, are they bringing me closer to the Lord or away from? And that you put that in everything, you really can. It's that's the filter. And so, you know, can I have a beer, for instance, and be okay and not go to hell? I think so. I think I can have a beer and it's not a vice for me. Now, if I have friends who are alcoholics, I do have friends who are alcoholics, and I would never do that to them. I wouldn't be a stumbling block to them. You know what I mean? So it's the situation you're in, it's the culture you're in, it's the people you're around. But so elevating, I mean, as Christians, is maybe a long non-answer, if someone would say, but really it's each according to your own heart. But I would encourage people and your listeners, I mean, literally pray about it. I mean, as a family, Heath, you're setting up, when you and Emma came together, you set up your own home, right? You're your own little sovereignty here, and you're the leader of that home. And you were raised, it's a great example. You were raised like, we don't do any of this and partake of any of it. And Emma's family was like, we worship Satan. So it was, you know what I mean? So it was like, no, but it was like,
my father-in-law listens to the pod.
But I'm saying, it was not, yeah, I know. Oh, so I love those people. They're so awesome. But anyway, anyway, no, but the joke, but it was a non-issue to them, right? Like, they're like, of course we can do this and still love Jesus. It's not even a thought. And so, yeah, I think I think it really is though. But if it is a stumbling block for you, if it's something that is, and you can see your family and going, again, it's the atmosphere. And I think churches doing what churches are doing, I just can't see where that's you're elevating Satan. I really don't. I think you're offering an alternative for people to get together in a safe environment, make some memories with children, make some connections, you know what I mean? And I think that's the heart of it, and again, it's a safe environment. It's not in this, I think you're doing the haunted house thing, and you're doing all the, you know what I mean, and scary movies. See, me growing up, it was kind of like, not Christian. Dude, we watched scary movies. We watched, and like all the things. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, yeah, that's not real great. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not. I remember being terrified at watching some pretty, horrific. Some now that if you watch today, you kind of laugh at because like the effects and stuff, but it's like, man, this was so scary. Now it's kind of a joke, but but I don't, like I said, you're not elevating evil. You're not elevating, and again, it's as your family, for instance, you and Emma have decided like, yeah, we're going to do this path, and we're going to, as long as you guys are on the same path as well. And again, I don't see that being a slippery slope, or even a doorway to, you know what I mean? Do you feel like you're opening a doorway there for the enemy to get in your family?
No.
No, exactly. It's so, like I said, it's, well, if that answers your question or helps you, but it really is. And I would, the listeners, I would really encourage you just to actually pray about it. Even if you're like, I'm not sure about this Jesus thing, I would ask the Lord to show himself and invite him to say, hey, what is this? Is this real? How does this affect my spirit? That kind of thing. I will say one last thing about this is, you say you see these clips of people who were involved in satanic worship, and then they talk about Halloween and say you should have nothing to do with it. And it's like, yeah, I don't celebrate Halloween. I'm just in the, you know what I mean? And again, I'm not celebrating, but that's to me, that's kind of like the drunk who then says, don't go to the bar, right? Or don't drink anything. You know what I mean? Total abstinence. It's like, well, I can't biblically say don't drink alcohol. There's no, you know what I mean? Purely, but if you have a problem, if it's a gateway to your soul, if it's something you have a problem with or something, but going in eyes wide open, that's it. And again, there's a difference between celebrating Halloween and, dressing up and having candy. I think there's a distinction there. And if you have a distinction in your family and a distinction in your heart and you're okay with that and you're clear with that and your family's clear with that, I don't see a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the closer you are to Christ, it naturally shows that self. Like, even within scary movies, I love movies, and I think you can feel there's a difference when it's like, is it a thriller that they were just figuring stuff out, or a human killing people? It's like, or like, is this inviting like evil presences? Evil like demonic stuff. Like the Conjuring movies. I always think about they're like, this was based on real events of these paranormal experts, charlatans or not. And it's just kind of like, we don't need to watch everything, and I think there is a line, even within that scary movie, but I love that how you said that. Cause it's is bowling a sin? I don't think so. But if that environment leads you to sin, then don't bowl, And that's the real message that we wanted to convey.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Larry, I've got one more question. This is a surprise one. This is out of left field. I like to add crazy questions. As a reverend, as a minister, do you believe in Bigfoot?
Ooh. Hmm. Why'd you throw in as the reverend part?
You can answer as a layman. You can do
that. I would say no, but we had an experience in the mountains that made me question.
Can we hear that story?
One of my first backpacking trips in Shenandoah. Yeah, it's wild. It's a wild night. So, I was just barely out of college. I was leading a college ministry downstate, and we had our backpacking trip. It was our first backpacking trip. We were on the Appalachian Trail, Shenandoah Valley. It had been an extremely long day. We drove from Indiana. We were up in the mountains that night, and we had everything settled. Finally, it was super late, and we had all these tents. We were actually camping where we probably shouldn't have, but we were way off in the middle of nowhere off the AT, and we were off this cliff. It was overlooking. It was so beautiful, but we were so exhausted. Everyone else went to bed. We had the girls hang the bear ropes for our food, and we're look at we're setting everything up and getting water and securing water and different things as well. And we're like, hey, ladies, you hang the ropes, the bear rope with all the food. And day one has the most food, right? So it's the heaviest. Mm-hmm. This bear rope weighed, oh man, it was basically in bear country, you have to hang your food up away. Well, these girls had hung the food about 5 feet off the ground, 4 feet off the ground. We're like, oh, the bear doesn't have to bend over to get the food. It's like, perfect. So anyway, we're like, all right, everyone go to bed. It was like myself and another guy, Ron and Paul. We're like, let's go to. It was Ron. We're about the same size build because that matters. And we went and hung the food off a cliff, actually, off a scenic overlook, actually. We're like, perfect. So we get this thing hung. Everyone's sleeping, and we're walking back, and our tents are very close together, and it was the worst night of my life in the woods. You've been in a tent, right, where it's dead silent, and you've had other tents next to you, and it's super quiet, and so you hear everything. It's probably, my guess is around 1:30 in the morning. Absolutely dead tired. And everyone's asleep. We have about six tents, all almost touching, like very close, like, because we're not in a campground, we're in the mountains, right? And so we've crammed these tents, these little backpacking tents, We got people crammed in their tents. And Ron and I are standing. There's like a circle of tents. And Ron, we're standing in the middle of the circle where the bare rope was. We had moved it. And it was like, good night, Ron. And he's like, good night, Larry. And Ron and I are about the same build, and bigger dudes. And he goes to his tent. I go to my tent. We're only probably, 10 yards away, maybe. Our tents, because there was another tent in between us. And it was that, you hear the zipper, finally get into my sleeping bag, and it feels so glorious. It's just like, we made it. First night in the mountains. We got a whole week. We got a 40-miler ahead of us. And we're just like, oh, this is great. And I'm just breathing, just slipping into sleep. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh, just relaxing. And I hear from Ron's direction, I hear this boom, 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 boom. And it like I could feel the vibration in the ground. And I was hearing branches break. Okay. And this coo, 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 coo. And it was getting louder and it was coming. I thought it was Ron and his big waffle stompers, his big boots. Poof, poof. And it stopped right in the middle of our tents, right outside where where a bunch of college girls sleeping and, their tents are over here. And it just stopped. And I'm like, Ron? And all I hear him say is, Larry? And we're like, he's like, that's not you? No.
Oh, my word.
Dude, we were like, my heart is going digga, 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 digga. I mean, it was tense. It was weird. It was like the atmosphere changed. And I talk about scary story and whatever, but like, dude, I'm not kidding. Like, it was 2-footed. I've heard a lot of animals in the mountains. All I'm saying is, it was like this. I thought it was a large man stomping his feet. Coo, coo, coo. Deer don't sound like that. I mean, it was definitely bipedal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we were like, it's standing right outside the girls' tent. And I was too scared to look, all right, as the fearless leader. I was like, I don't know what this thin tent wall is going to do, but it was right there. We never heard it leave. It stopped. And Ron heard it too in his tent. That was a terrible night because I passed out. I passed out in fear. I was so tense and it was like so exhausted. I don't remember falling asleep.
Yeah.
I passed out. The next time I woke up out of a dead sleep, about an hour later, I'm hearing this kid in our group to the tent next on the other side of me starts screaming. It's got me. It's got me. Oh my gosh, it's got me. It's got me. Oh my gosh, it's got me. Now, Bigfoot is now mauling what kids in my group. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, blood curdling scream, right? Like,
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is going on? No, we don't have any weapons. We're in the national park. We have nothing. Like,
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, I think it may be a little pocket knife. I am like, what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? Too scared to look out the tent, right?
Yeah.
Scream. Oh, but here. He's having a nightmare.
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm just like, good. And then the rest of that story, it was terrible. It didn't involve Bigfoot, but but pass out. Wake up the next time I wake up out of a dead sleep again, probably 3 a.m. A whole pack of coyotes. Like a whole pack, not like one, like a pack, had stood outside our tent and just cut loose. I don't know if you ever heard coyotes actually like yip and yowl.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like it's funny because if you hear them off in the distance, you swear there's like a wild kegger going on in the middle of the woods is what it sounds like. You know what I mean? It's really sounds like a wild party going on. Anyway, dead sleep. Well, I mean, they were right outside our tent. They cut loose. I mean, it was nerve-wracking, okay? Pass back out. They take off, I pass back. I'm just like, I still am too scared to look outside my tent, right? Okay. Like, I'm like, we got Bigfoot. I don't know what was trying to eat this kid. It was a nightmare, but he was fine. And his tent mate's like, he's sleeping. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill him. Anyway, but the coyotes wake up. And then I don't know, this must have been like 4 a.m. now. But I'm dozed back. I'm so exhausted now. I just want to sleep. About 4 a.m. I hear right outside our tent. An owl just starts cutting loose right outside that. At this point, I don't care. Bigfoot, bears, I don't care. Coyotes. I opened my tent up. I literally did this. I opened my tent. You know me. I unzipped the tent and I went, would everything just leave it alone? Because I'm trying to sleep. I was so mad. But the rest of that story was the next day, Heath and I, it was the worst night I've ever had in the mountain. It was like everything was out there just dirt. But the whatever 2-footed Bigfoot that came in the middle of our tents, uh, um, I was talking to Ron the next day, and Ron was like, we were both freaked about that because we were like, I could feel the vibration in the ground.
Yeah.
Like it was that, or it could have been my heart. I don't know. But it was, he said it came from extremely brushy area. And Ron said, he goes, we were talking, he goes, dude, he goes, next day, he goes, Larry goes, you know what's weird about that? He said, I was up there going to the bathroom like hours earlier. And he was, he's up there doing his business and sitting, behind a log or whatever. And he said, I was sitting there and I had this weird feeling. He said, like the hairs on the back of my neck, like it was like goosebumps. He goes, I had the weirdest feeling. He goes, like I was being watched. It freaked him out.
Dang.
And that was like a couple hours. That was hours before, right? That was like when the daylight. And so we've never, anyway, that's our Bigfoot experience. We were like, I think it was Bigfoot. And we were trying to explain to the girls who were sleeping like babies. They didn't hear any of this. We're like, Bigfoot tried to eat you last night, and it was right outside the tent. They didn't believe us, and it was for real. So anyway, but do I believe Bigfoot? I want to believe. I think it'd be cool, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of like, to answer your question, yeah, so you asked for the story, though, so anyway, but
That's great.
it's, Bigfoot,
I've never heard that story.
I have, yeah, it's pretty wild, so, yeah, it's, yeah, that was the only time I have friends who have spent a lot of time considering, I'm kind of in the outdoors space,
Yeah.
my lure company and stuff, but it's like, fishing and hunting and stuff. I used to do a lot of hunting, but yeah, it's encounters sometimes, so I don't know. There's some weird, but I think honestly, with all the trail cameras we have out there in the woods, you know what I mean? Like all the things that we have, I mean, the surveillance and the, now today that we didn't have, you'd think if there was actually something out there, it would eventually show up. The camera traps and all the, you know what I mean? And the rare things that we know.
Yeah. Well, what happened is the Smithsonian takes the bones and they've been hiding them all, so that's why you don't find any remains. So it's all government.
Oh, that's what.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's why. So resolved to answer.
We couldn't handle it.
No, we couldn't handle it. Well, awesome, Larry. Thanks for being
so
on.
Cool right now.
Right. We was like, no, you couldn't handle this. I'd love for, could you just push your lure business and tell us a little bit about that? And I can link it, but you're quite the bass fishing pro, the jigger, I guess, would you be called?
No, yeah. Actually, bass, we I hate to say it, we make fun of the bass guys, but
yeah.
But anyway. It's the guys in the sparkly boats. Yeah, we kind of make fun of them, but yeah, no, they're not real fish. The sparkly boat crew. I'm not really, I do bass. I mean, I do it all. Deanne likes the bass fish, but Jonah Jigs is my company. JONAH JIGS, just like, the big fish, the whole thing. But I what they are is vertical jigging spoons, specifically for salmon, lake trout, big fish. But it's rod in hand instead of like trolling. And so we have all this deep water right in our backyard. And I got. Can Boomer come on here? Come here, Boomer.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh, here we go. Here's the wiener dog.
What's up, buddy?
But Boomer. Anyway, but he's a spoiled brat. But anyway, Jonah Jigs is a so it just basically came out of a necessity. I couldn't get what I wanted. And so I took all my trolling knowledge for mostly if you have fishermen listening, or fishermen in your life that you would like to get a gift for. Jonah Jigs, basically we troll for salmon most of the time, where you're in big lake, big water, deep water, and it usually involves a lot of gear and tackle and very expensive, expensive and extensive rigging and all the things. And it can be very effective to troll, deep water for these big fish. Well, I went, can we just take like bass gear, like lighter tackle, and catch these big fish just for fun and to see? And so it was born out of that. And so we kind of innovated some stuff and some techniques. And I just started making my own stuff. And I'm like, I like to make a jig, and they're so what they are is heavy jigging spoons. So they're more of and you kind of snap and you're basically getting a reaction bite out of these big fish. And so salmon, lake trout. I mean, if you've never caught a salmon on a bass rod, that's a riot. It's an absolute riot. Instead of using big, heavy reels and heavy rods, and it's almost commercial level. It's basically, sometimes you feel like you're going, elephant hunting with the BB gun. You know what I mean? So it's kind of that kind of. It's like, can we do this? And it's a riot. And so we have a tremendous fishery around here, but we've actually, it's crazy. I just built them for myself and my buddies because we wanted to build something I couldn't get on the market, and people took notice, and a lot of the captains around here, people got tired of us out fishing them, and they're like, "Oh, what do you use?" I'm like, I just make these in my garage, and it's kind of a hobby of mine, and it was something I did actually after ministry. It was kind of something hands-on, kind of my day off, and anyway, it kind of grew, and with my health stuff. Stepping away from ministry, it was kind of a therapeutic, I guess, but actually it's weird how the Lord uses that stuff, man. And so it's grown very organically. We've never advertised. But we ship all over the country, and it's pretty wild. I've helped so check it. It's jonahjigs.com. We have a website. I was in stores, but we couldn't keep up. And so we really like dealing directly with our customers anyway, and we help people out. Our whole goal is it's not to sell lures. It really is, we want people to help make memories on the water. That's what we want to do. We want people to have success. We want to be able to help shorten their learning curve. And man, it's so cool. It's a cool thing. So it's rewarding. We get Christmas cards and pictures, and people are, you know what I mean? And I love when my customers send me pictures. It's like, oh my goodness, this is so much fun. And, you don't need a whole lot of tackle to go out there and catch these big fish. And there's certain times a year where they're extremely effective. And so, so that's kind of, we paint them, and they're all handmade, all American made components, and right here made in Traverse City. And I mean, all our stuff is here. The only thing that's foreign on my baits are my hooks, which are made in France. America just can't make a good hook, so I think maybe we need to start that. I need to start that. Man, I've been tempted to start my own hook company. But anyway, so I
call it American Hooker.
But everything else is American made. American. Thank you, Heath. I'll write that down.
Well, yeah, it seems like a really catchy title. That's awesome, though. Yeah, I've used it a couple times with you. I think we jigged for northern pike that we got on there once, and like
might have it was pike. And
did some walleye as well. I just remember just trying a bunch of random stuff, and I did lose a custom Spartan 117 jig. But Spartans never die; they only go missing in action. So it's out there somewhere.
Exactly.
The bomb
still out there. He's still out there. Out there.
It was one of those.
It's funny if you want to look up the pictures on my website still of 117. It's on my website under ice jigs. So if you find it on there, there's a 117 jig, and it's the Halo jig.
Yeah, I got your
I need to
website
reforge it.
pulled up there right now. But yeah, I
I think there was a 117.
Yep. Oh, I see it. It's in the palm of your hand. 117. Yeah, it was green and orange, the stripe down the middle.
Yep.
It was one of those moments. I think anybody who lives in snow country has had this. You drop it, and it's right by your foot. It's like I saw where it went. Gone.
Magically
Clearly gone.
just poof.
Yeah. Well, Larry, thank you so much for being on. It was fun chatting with you, catching up with you. We'll post your website for Jonah Jigs, and just, yeah, really appreciate it. You've meant a lot to me. I mean, you were my youth pastor for years, my pastor when I was an intern, and so just I really appreciate you taking the time today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Of course.